Hi there, this is Jonathan Mitchell, the co-director of the Ucan Prep for college. If you haven't yet visited our website, you can visit us at www.collegesatprep.com. This video is to introduce you to an 8-step system to solve any sentence completion problem on the SATs. By the way, this is the very same system that since the mid-1990s has helped over 1,000 students achieve huge gains on the verbal portion of the test. So let's just jump right to it. Step number one is you want to read and seek to understand the gist of the sentence. So let me give you an example. So here's an actual sentence completion problem from an official SAT test from the past. Here it is. And I read, the children whose blank parents will not brook disagreement or contradictions reach the age of adolescent rebellion without having learned how to blank their own individuality. Okay, so first things first, for step one, all we're trying to simply do is to get the gist of what the question is asking. Clearly, in this case here, as you notice, the first word here is going to be a word that would describe the parents. And then we're asked here to come up with some type of action. In other words, the children, who reach the age of adolescent rebellion, without learning how to some word, okay, their own individuality. Okay, awesome. So let's move on. Now, at the very least, for the very first missing word, this, as I mentioned to you, this sentence asks us to come up with a word that describes these parents. So I just showed that. Okay, let's go on to the next. Let's move on. Now, step number two is you want to analyze the sentence to identify the logic of the sentence. So there are 4 logic patterns you will find in sentence completion problems. First type of pattern is contrast. So here's an example. For all his claims of being the fastest runner, Andrew was actually the... Okay, you get the gist. Obviously, this is an example. This is clearly a contrast. We could, by the way, substituted this for all with something such as an expression such as, in spite of his claims of being the fastest runner, Andrew was actually there. And of course, the possible word that will fit will be a word such as like slowest. Okay. So for all, and we're going to talk about this, is what we call a trigger word that tells us we're dealing with a contrast. This is an important keyword. We're going to be talking about that in step 4. And basically, Andrew was actually the slowest. Okay, good. So that's the first type of logical pattern. Now here's the second pattern here. The second pattern you commonly find in sentence completion problems are what we call cause and effect. So here's an example. As a result of consuming daily 3 Big Macs, large French fries, and a chocolate milkshake, within 9 weeks, Jessica blank weight. Now, obviously, this is a cause and effect because the cause, by the way, in the first clause is, as a result of consuming large, high calorific foods. The effect or the result is that, of course, Jessica blank weight, and Jessica, yes, exactly, she gained weight. So again, cause and effect. The first clause here, again, refers to the cause, and the second one, okay, gives us a sense as to what the effect is. Again, she gained weight. Now, let's go on to the third logical type of pattern we find on test, on sentence completion. Here we go. Now, the third logical pattern you'll commonly find is what we call parallel structure. So, here's a great example here. She adopted the role of the novelist as a blank narrator. She relayed an action as though she were God, telling us which characters are to be admired, which to be deplored, and why. Now, first of all, we have a parallel structure because basically we have 2 independent clauses separated here by, in this case here, a semicolon. So typically when you have a semicolon or a colon separating 2 independent clauses, you're dealing with a parallel structure. Now, this is really helpful to know because first of all, we're looking for a word here that describes the narrator. So because we're dealing with a parallel construction, which basically means that both clauses have, in essence, a similar structure or similar meaning, all we have to do here is to look up the keywords, a clue in the second clause. And obviously, if we were to look carefully as to a word that will describe who she was like as a narrator, we could lock into, of course, God. Okay? And so basically, as mentioned here, a possible word that could describe the narrator will be either a godlike or an omniscient, okay, narrator. Okay? Again, this is an example of a parallel structure. The fourth pattern, very similar to a parallel construction, is basically what we call definitional. And so here's an example. So Florida Congresswoman Leanna Ross-Lehtinen chose to focus on how national issues affect those voters she represents. Okay, now, basically, we call this definitional because very often after the comma, you will have a word that in essence will basically describe or define what goes in the blank. So in this case here we have the word voters, so obviously a possible fit will be a word such as like constituents, okay? All right, so now we basically have gone over the 4 types of logical patterns that we'll find in sentence completion. We talked about cause and effect, contrast, parallel, and definitional. Awesome. Now, let's move on here. Great. So we come back to the sentence, and let's see if we can identify the logic of the sentence here. So here we go again. The children whose blank parents will not brook disagreement or contradictions reach the age of adolescent rebellion without having learned how to blank their own individuality. What do you think is the logical pattern of this sentence? Do you think, is it A, contrast, B, cause and effect, C, parallel, or D, definitional? Well, if you view this sentence as having basically a cause and effect relationship, you are absolutely correct. Basically, we have here the first clause here deals with the cause. We, by the way, could have substituted, okay, or added the word, say, like because these children whose blank parents will not brook disagreement or contradictions, that's the cause. The effect is they reached, of course referring to the children, reached the age of adolescent rebellion without having learned how to blanket their own individuality, okay? So bingo. So now basically we have nailed the logic of the sentence, and it is cause and effect. So now we're on to step 3. Here we go. Okay, now step number 3 is basically identify a problem word or a problematic expression in the sentence. So let me quickly explain. A problem word is a word whose meaning is pivotal to understanding the logic of the sentence. Once this word is identified, the student cannot proceed with the problem until he or she can make an educated guess as to what the word means using either the context of the sentence or by decoding the word based on its prefix, root, or suffix. So let's go back to the sentence here. Now, if we were to look carefully at the sentence, most students will basically lock into the word brook as a problem word. Now, the question we need to ask ourselves is the word brook pivotal to really understanding the meaning of the logic of the sentence? And of course, the answer is absolutely yes. So guess what? We cannot move on. We can't move on until we define what the word brook means. So basically, based on the context, what do you think the word brook means? Because, by the way, it'll be very hard to kind of decode what it means, based on prefix or suffix or root. It will not really help us here, We may know the meaning of brook as in a noun, but brook as a verb, as in this context here, has a completely different meaning. So again, based on the context, what do you think the word brook means? So let's analyze very carefully. So looking at the surrounding words, says whose blank parents will not brook disagreement or contradictions. What could brook mean? Well, logic dictates indeed that the word brook basically would be something similar to tolerate. Okay, so if you came up right with the word like tolerate for brook, rock on. That's awesome. All right. Okay, hey, we enjoy what we do here, so we're having fun. All right, so let's move on here. So basically, we now know what brook means. Brook means to tolerate. So we have basically, at this point, completed step 3. Let's go on to step 4. Now, moving forward, here's step 4. Basically, step 4 is identify and underline keywords or clues, and then circle trigger words. So let me quickly explain what a clue in a sentence completion is. Now, have you ever watched CSI? Now, if your answer was yes, hey, I have to admit, it's a really, really cool show. By the way, this is interesting. A CSI episode was actually taped a few months ago at my mom's townhouse, you know. But hey, that's for another conversation for another day, all right? For now, let's just stay locked in here and focused. So, bottom line, here we go. I want you to pretend that you are a CSI detective. Now, you walk into a crime scene in a room, and you notice that there was, you have the body, right? And you notice there was definitely a scuffle or even a fight. You could sense that, right? Now, you carefully inspect the corpse and notice on the victim's nails some skin tissue. So here's a question. What are you going to do with the sample of skin tissue as a CSI detective? Obviously, you're going to take that sample back to the lab, and you're going to do a whole series of analysis, maybe genetic analysis, gene analysis, whatever, okay? and clearly, based on your conclusion, your finding, your analysis, you should be able to solve the mystery. In other words, to figure out who is the mystery murderer, all right? Well, this is no different on the sentence completion, all right? So basically, the clue in a sentence completion will basically give you a logical hint as to what the missing word is. So let's go back to our sentence. So let's try to identify the clues here. So we are trying again to find a clue that will give us a hint, give a hint as to the word that describes the parents. So let's look very carefully. What could that clue be? We analyze this carefully, and let's see what we can come up with. So the question is, what are the clues in the sentence that will give us a hint of the missing words? Please, let's identify and underline them, and here we go. Bingo. If you locked in to not brook disagreement or contradictions as the clue that will give you a hint as to the first, the word that is missing for, word number 1, you rock. You got it, okay? A second clue will be without having learned how to blank their individuality, okay? So let's see how this all fits together, all right? Let's go on to step 5. So step 5 basically, step 4, a very important one last step on step 4 is you also want to identify and circle trigger words. Okay, all right, so what is a trigger word? Simple. A trigger word is simply a word that provides us with the logical path of a sentence. So in this case here, example of trigger words are such as like and, since, altogether, but, etc. So for instance, if I said, she's very smart and blank, obviously, because the word and, which is a trigger word, will be very similar, will give us a hint as to what the missing word is, and of course it will be very similar to the word smart, okay? So that's an example of a trigger word. So going back to the sentence here, if we really look at this, there are really no explicit trigger words, but if we really analyze it very carefully, there is one, but it is actually implicit. And it is, we could, as I shared earlier on, you could actually insert the trigger word because. And that's what makes this a cause and effect. So again, because the children whose blank parents will not brook or tolerate disagreement or contradictions, they reach the age of adolescent rebellion without having learned how to blank their own individuality. Again, we're dealing with a cause and effect pattern. Beautiful. So now we're basically ready for step 5. And by the way, step 5 is something that is done, internally, obviously, as all these steps. Basically, it's process the data. So basically, process the data or synthesize the data means that in any given sentence we analyze very carefully the data, the logic of the sentence. In this case, it was a cause and effect. the problem word, we now know that the word brook means to tolerate, and also the clues. We remember we said parents will not brook disagreement and reach the age of adolescent rebellion. Bingo. Once we all have this in mind, we synthesize or combine all these data, and we are now ready for step 6. Okay? And here is step number 6. Step number 6 is plug in your own words. So, quick recap. Steps 1 through steps 5 basically prepare us for this very, very vital step. So, a quick recap again. We know that this is a cause and effect logical pattern. We know basically what the problem word brook means. Brook again means to tolerate. We basically know that what the keywords are: will not brook disagreement or contradictions, and without having learned how to. And so we're now ready to figure out what belongs in the first blank. Okay. Now, a very important tip before we solve this problem together: when dealing with a cause and effect problem, we need to figure out the missing word in the clause that deals with the cause before we solve for the effect. In other words, we have identified that this first clause here deals with the cause. So we got to solve for this word first before we can figure out what the second word, which basically deals with the effect. Okay? Now, another very important tip. We must not look at the answers before coming up with our own word in our mind, because the answers are designed to be misleading, and they can completely throw the student off, all right? So here we go. Let's look at step 6 here. So let's plug in our words, okay? So we remember the sentence here. We've already underlined the keywords. Missing word number 1. I want you to please write down a word we could plug in that describes the parent, a parent that will not brook or tolerate disagreement, okay? So go ahead, just take a couple of seconds here and come up okay with that word, all right? All right? Okay. Give you a couple more seconds here. Come on, I need you to write this stuff down. Don't just listen. Write it down, all right? Okay, awesome. Now, if you came up with words like strict or severe, bingo, you got it, okay? So now let's look at missing word number 2. Missing word number 2. Considering that their strict parents will not brook disagreement, we can obviously logically deduce that these children reach the age of adolescent rebellion without having learned how to their own individuality. So jot a word that could fit in the second blank. Okay? All right, so go ahead. Come on. I'm watching you. Come on, write the word down. Okay? All right? All right, so let's see what you came up with. All right? If you came up with a word like express, in other words, without having learned how to express their own individuality, well done. Job well done. Okay? Okay, rock on. Now, we're basically ready, okay, for step number 7. We're almost there, guys. So, let's look at this. Step number 7, okay, is to eliminate the wrong answers first. Okay, so here are basically the answer choices. A, obliging disguise. Now, by the way, remember, okay, we said that the first blank here we came up with was strict, and the second blank here we came up with something like to express. Okay, so again, here are the answer choices. First is obliging disguise, vituperative control, domineering assert, compromising subdue, considerate proclaim. Okay, so let's say this is the test, all right, and we got to think very quickly on our feet here, right? So obliging disguise. Even if we did not know what obliging meant, the student, we can at least figure out that the word disguise does not match the word to express, remember? So A is gone. Now let's look at vituperative and control. So a lot of students are not quite familiar with the meaning of the word vituperative, but however, they look at the word control, and they should go, maybe, maybe not. Okay, so to control doesn't mean the same as to express. Some students will say yes. Let's keep an open mind to B. Okay, now domineering and assert. Okay, domineering, could that mean the same as strict? Okay, assert, could that mean the same as to express? Okay, so let's look at compromising and subdue. Now, does compromising mean the same as strict? No. Okay. Does subdue means the same as to express? Probably not. Okay. So consider it and proclaim. E, consider it and proclaim. Do you think that matches? Okay, so which one do you think is the correct answer? If you picked C, domineering, yes, you got it. All right, awesome. By the way, okay, when we coach, we really believe, okay, in energy and enthusiasm, because that's how students learn the best. I mean, when I was in school, should be in high school or college, I just love, teachers and professors that had high energy and were enthusiastic. I wanted to learn from them, all right? So anyway, we really seek to make the classes, the courses fun. Okay, so moving forward, let's go on to step 8. Insert the answer or pair of answers back into the sentence to ensure they match the logic. Okay, so remember the sentence. Here are the 5 answer choices. So we all basically settled on C, so let's plug C back in. And here we go. The children whose domineering parents will not brook disagreement or contradictions reach the age of adolescent rebellion without having learned how to assert their own individuality. Okay, so sounds good, makes logical sense, totally matches the words we plugged in and we came up with earlier. So we're ready to rock and roll and move on to the next problem. Okay, that's it, guys. So you now have a fairly good sense as to Ucan's 8-step system to solve any sentence completion problem, and this step-by-step process, we just walked you through, gives you a sense of the time-proven systems we have successfully taught since the 1990s to over 1,000 students using Ucan's proprietary SAT, ACT, SAT2 test prep systems. The critical reading is powerful. Clearly, this is where a lot of students tend to be challenged, and so we have also a very methodical step-by-step system that does use critical thinking skills, but nonetheless, allows students to be able to decode very complex, reading passages. Same thing for our math and, math program systems for our math program, and of course, okay, the writing and the essay portion. Okay, anyway, since the mid-2000s, we have also guided parents and students through the college admission process using results-driven systems that allow students to dramatically increase their odds of admission into their top college picks. In 2012, just very recently, we added a college funding program to our arsenal of services to help parents basically reduce their out-of-pocket college tuition expense. It goes without saying that college tuition is becoming more and more expensive every single year. But basically, surpasses the rate of inflation. So almost like 8.5% increases tuition increases per year. It's huge. Anyway, moving forward here. So we have a gift for you, and very specifically, here's the gift. We in essence offer a free college planning, an online college planning seminar, which in essence revealed 6 insider strategies that will boost your teen's SAT score by 200 points, guaranteed, plus also college admission secrets that will help your teen get into more of his or her college picks for pennies on the dollar. So again, this webinar can be viewed right from the comfort of your own home. And I love this picture here. There you go. You could even actually view it if you choose to, okay, with your pet, a dog or cat or whatever, okay. Here's a promise. After viewing this online webinar, you will feel as though someone actually had handed you, a flashlight in a dark tunnel. It will absolutely enlighten you and give you clarity as to all the steps you need, most of the majority of the steps you need to be able to strategically plan a successful high school campaign, so that ultimately the teen gets strategically positioned and can differentiate himself her or herself from a fiercely competitive applicant pool, and ultimately get in, at his or her college picks for pennies on the dollar. So here's basically how you can access this information. So to register for this online college planning seminar, all you have to do is just simply go to www.planforcollegeseminar.com. The online college planning seminars are held on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay, so once again, to register, go to www.planforcollegeseminar.com. You can also call our 24-hour recorded message at 626-872-3059. Once again, 626-872-3059. Or you can visit our website at www.collegesatprep.com. Once again, www.collegesatprep.com. There you go. Hope this video was of immense help to you, and very much look towards hearing from you very soon and empowering you on your journey towards college admission success. Take care, and God bless.